Okay, we'll move through the study sessions, then we'll come back. All right. 1-1, call on Chief Weisman.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We have 3 items for next week for you, 2 of which are donations. The first one is Citizen State Bank of Mound Ridge donated $1,500 towards the American LaFrance Restoration Project. So I'd like to bring that next week.
Okay.
And then the next one is the Headland family donated $10,000 towards the American LaFrance Restoration Project. So I'd like to bring that one next week as well.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Then the next one is a paid call firefighter, permission to hire. Theron Kane interviewed successfully for that position. He's been a 10-year member of Galva Fire Department. He has all of his fire credentials, and he's also finishing up his EMT. So we interviewed him, and we think he would be a fantastic addition to paid call. So I'd like to bring him next week as well.
Okay, sounds good.
That's all I got.
Okay, Wayne Burns.
Couple items in study session. First one is an annual purchase of plant materials and supplies from Ball Seed. This year, our quote came in at $11,124.53. That's $1,681.71 less than 2020. And you can see there where all locations that breakdown of the locations and facilities that we use the flowers at. We start them in our own greenhouse.
Okay, bring it next week.
Okay. The next item is reimbursable expenses for Turkey Creek Golf Club, golf course and the clubhouse. Was contacted over the weekend by staff requesting startup funds due to members and customers already ordering clubs and logo golf balls for individuals and local businesses. The startup funding was in the past has been requested in late January. And Gary and we visited about this earlier today. I was wanting to request 15,000, but we've had conversation about upping that to 30,000 as a startup and reimbursable. Treg thinks in February that he'll need more spending power to buy and get the pro shop equipped for the upcoming golf season.
I'll call on Janetta. Any problem if we up this to $30,000 given the profitable experience last year?
I guess I just have a couple questions to make sure that I understand this because I didn't show it on, was this added this morning
Was it added this morning?
or was it added after?
Yes, it was added this morning about 7 o'clock.
Okay, okay. So the way I understand it, what the request is for either a individual or a organization or company that wants to purchase items through the pro shop that they are going to in turn pay for after receipt. Is that correct?
No,
No,
There, we are asking, like we did for farming, in advance of $30,000 instead of 15, so they have the money to buy wholesale to sell for the orders that are going to come up in the next 60 to 90 days. Exactly.
instead of having to bring it 1,000, if you have $1,000 set of clubs that you order, this just gives a total amount or gives you at least a starting point to.
Okay. The
purchase.
reimbursable fund in the subject line threw me off. I'm not sure why
We
we're
do-
calling it
We did it last year. I don't know if the right fund is there. We can work with you and Richard. All we're wanting to do is increase the amount to $30,000 this morning so that with the orders that are already being asked about, we have sufficient amount without having to come every week.
Okay, so so basically what the ask is similar to what Chief Golden asked for with his
For training, yeah.
Yeah,
Same
okay.
kind of thing.
Yep.
okay, yeah, I would like the reimbursable taken out of the subject because it's not really reimbursable from anybody. It's just
Purchase
sales.
authority.
Purchase
Just
authority.
purchase authority, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I'm fine, yeah, I'm fine with that, absolutely.
Okay, I would like to bring this purchase authority 2.2 this morning when we come back into session so you can begin to work.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
So the ask is 30,000 total
Correct.
For now,
for now, okay.
and you could always get further approval later.
Okay, I'll call on Jeff Woodward for 3.1, second Healy sleeve spiral shaft failure.
The wastewater treatment facility has two helio sieves. The wastewater goes down one, they alternate in use. They're up on a second level in the Headworks building. In May of 2019, we had a failure of one of the helio sieve spiral shafts, and we were able to make a temporary repair in place. So the problem is the shaft is about 20 feet long and it weighs around 800 pounds. And so getting it up there, nothing was thought about in the construction of the building. So we've been in the process of designing a trolley system that'll be able to lift that shaft and put it in place. And the commission actually approved the construction of that trolley. The contractor was ready to come in and install it and has found what they think is an issue in the design. So anyway, in the meantime, we've had a second shaft failure. And this is in the one that was it's the opposite from the one that was temporarily welded. This break in this shaft is right up near the gearbox. So when it sheared, it most probably distorted the metal. And being that close to the gearbox, we don't think we can weld it back in place because if it's not in exact alignment, it'll tear the gearbox up. So I'm just bringing it today to let you know it's going to be expensive. The last shaft, we do have a new shaft at the facility ready to be installed. When we ordered it last time, there was like a 3-month lag time. So we'll put the new shaft in where the second break is. We're not in trouble right now, but should the second one break, then we'd have a huge issue. So while we're working through the issues with the installation of the trolley, we're going to have an emergency repair to take this up, and I think they'll probably have to lower it, rent a crane, lower it down through the hatch in the roof, and then maybe a smaller crane inside to try to get it in place, plus extra people. We just don't have that kind of people and equipment. So Donnelly and Sons said they thought they could do it. They're coming out today to look at it. As we speak, we're putting prices together on this, but we're gonna have to order a new shaft and perform this emergency repair. And we still don't have a permanent fix in place, so we're working on that as well.
Okay, and the shaft that failed is not the same shaft
Right.
that was welded a year
Correct.
ago.
Yeah,
Okay, so we need to,
we don't
we're
expect,
running on borrowed time here, because if that one fails, then we're done.
yeah.
Okay,
And
It's-
the one that we welded in place has already lasted longer than I thought it would, which is great, but it just leaves us in a pretty vulnerable position.
It's great to know that at the beginning of 2021, we've been shafted over a bunch of crap.
there you go. So
So,
do we need to bring this back in?
well, we don't have any cost yet,
Okay.
but we really need to move forward with it.
I'd say let's move forward and
Yeah,
we'll
keep-
work on that. later.
Keep going on the emergency.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Administration.
Okay, at the start of each year, the city of McPherson must prepare and distribute W-2s, ACA forms, better yet known as 1095Cs, to employees, as well as submit to the IRS for incoming tax processing. With the recent loss to the assistant city administrator who handled this, it'd be beneficial to use assistants to complete these duties in 2021. Our payroll is handled through Cassell, and it's logical to seek some assistance from Cassell for these services. Staff would like to request that Commission allow Cassell to provide these services to us in 2021 for the following cost: for W-2 services, $2,300, and ACA services for an amount not to exceed $2,650. And then I will say that as staffing decisions are made during this year and we have time to analyze the value of the service, we'd like to come back to you and consider whether we do this in future years or if we just use our staff to continue doing this as we did in the past. So
It's an important move right now. And we'll have another meeting later in the week on other things with the staff. But I'd like to move to approve the agreement for.
We're in study session.
Okay.
We'll bring it.
I want to bring it when we're back in session.
yeah,
Sorry.
and it's already on the agenda added.
Yeah,
so.
I saw it. All right.
The next item, during the April 1st, 2020 City Commission meeting, the City Commission implemented the Families First Coronavirus Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act, designating those positions eligible to receive benefits and deemed those working in appropriate areas as essential workers in accordance with the federal regulations. With the recent passage of the Coronavirus and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, Congress extended those benefits available in the Families First Act, including emergency paid sick leave, emergency family and medical leave act, but it was optional for all employers between January 1st and March 31st of 2021. With that in mind, it's a recommendation to staff that we look to, in some form or manner, extend those benefits until March 31st, 2021 for city employees in the same manner that it was offered in 2020. However, with the caveat, employees who have exhausted or used that leave in 2020 will not be eligible for more leave. So it simply would be an extension of those previously granted during 2020. Furthermore, the city also considered extending the interim city COVID-19 policy that was put back in effect in November 1st of 2020, which grants additional leave when employees have first exhausted all their the EPSL leave and any accrued sick leave. This was also set to expire on December 31st of 2020. A simple motion to extend these benefits to March 31st of 2021 I believe, would extend this leave. I will say, I did see last week, there was some discussion what different communities around the state were doing, and some have limited it to once the vaccine is fully available for all people. So instead of going until March 31st, you could say March 31st or until the vaccine's available for all people, there's different things you could look at, but
My personal feeling is that vaccine may not be available to all people by March 31st, the way the rollout's going, so I just assume leave the vaccine part off. Okay, now I have to call Tammy Seeley. Do you have any remarks you want to make? If you do, you come up here.
So I think that it's a good idea for us to extend this out for people that we're still seeing cases come in. Last week, we had 4 or 5 people that were out for a few days. And so this would just really help them get through this time, because with the holidays in there, I think we're going to see an uptick here shortly. So I think it would be a good idea for those people that haven't used those full 80 hours yet to be able to have access to that.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
I will say that just as it relates to that, it was really tied in with the tax credits, which we're not eligible for anyways. But I would just reflect what Tammy says. We feel
Yeah.
it's in the best interest.
Okay, it's on an item after the recess.
Okay. And then the last item, our McPherson team, which is made up of Public Works, Fire Department, myself, the mayor, had been meeting with developers from Topeka, Kansas City area about construction of a low-income housing tax credit project. We looked at multiple locations. The area that we've now focusing on is south of the current Deerfield property, and it's just immediately west of the clubhouse there. It's an empty property that would be just north of Autumnwood Drive that's not constructed and all the way through there. An effort to make this project cash flow, the developer and to strengthen that low-income housing tax credit application that goes in through KHRC. It's critical that they've indicated it's critical that we show participation on the part of the city. There are several items they'd like to discuss as options for participation that will have both monetary and out-of-pocket impacts for the city. And part would be in kind, part would be potentially cash. And I would like to sit down and kind of discuss some of those. I did want to provide you guys a copy of where the area we're actually talking about here, just so you guys have a better feel of that. This is, I think, Deerfield Drive, I believe.
Yes.
Right now, it ends right here. It just simply ends right here. Autumnwood is not built out here, but it would require Autumnwood to at least come out to this area here. One of the things we've discussed is they'd ideally not like to have to put it here, extend it all the way here, but I think it really gives us some circulation by looking at doing that. So that's one of the things that maybe we wanted to talk about is would the city consider paying for this short portion to connect it over to this other side?
If we took Autumnwood to Stearman, that short distance, Justin Walker gave us a rough estimate, I'm going to say it that way, of about 19,500. So that's a small piece. It's a very short deal to go, and it's not very much. That is not for the rest of Autumnwood over to the other deal. That's just for that short
Yeah.
piece.
They would be responsible for putting the rest of Autumnwood through
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's just that short connecting piece. So let's just say we're looking at rough estimate $20,000 in order to get that piece. I think that's an important piece because that gives us better access for fire equipment and law enforcement to come in off of Stearman if we have to.
And I understand that this is a concept. Obviously, this has to go through all of its review, but this is what the site plan would potentially look like. So what these are, just so you know, these are duplexes. They'll be senior duplexes is what they are. Clubhouse is right over here. So what they'd be looking at doing is making like a cul-de-sac where they could turn around here. There's still some details we have to go through, but we just looked at the original concept. So they'd extend this road through here. They'd come back through here. The challenge with this parcel of property is there's a gas line that goes through here. There's a big distribution gas line, and that's the other main piece that they have to work all the way through to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason it's set up the way it is, because you can't have any private properties that are over that gas line. So, and there are some limitations that come with that.
And their responsibility to do the due diligence to talk with the gas company as to whether or not we have the ability to do this and take advantage of property that probably can't be used if the gas company doesn't approve this. But we think there is room for both if we can get the gas company approval.
So there's essentially 13 duplexes you're looking at for seniors. And some of that's one of the things that they posed that they they'd like us to consider. A couple other things that we've talked about. There's tap fees and connection fees that they would otherwise be required to pay. And those are, they're basically $550 per tap. And then also a $2,500 connection fee for all the newly developed lots. So those are some costs that we could potentially offer as a benefit. They asked about some water rate things. I said those aren't things that we have control over. Those are ultimately BPU decisions. They've asked about erosion control permits, and they've asked about building permits and whether we consider waiving any portion of those. And, you know, we have an idea what those might be, but we don't know for sure. We think it could be just under about $2,700 per duplex. So that's what we estimate. And then there's also some plating fees, which are fairly minimal, but $100 plus $5 per lot over one lot. So you see that there's 13 lots that we're looking at here. So they are asking whether we consider waiving any of those or participating in any way, shape, or form. The other thing that's out there, if this becomes a public street, you know, there's in-house inspection that we do. That could be an in-kind charge if we have the time and time available. And the other whole thing that goes along with this is I don't know what the timing of when the tax credits actually become available. If they don't get funded this year, they may come in a future year and ask us to consider that too. So I think one thing I would say is that we need to be willing to offer something similar. We probably have another tax credit project that may be looking as well, and so we need to be willing to offer something similar to them. They probably won't get funded for both in a given year. It would be close. I would say that would be very highly unlikely, but there may be another tax credit project being requested at another location here that you guys have heard about already. So I wanted to have a little discussion and see what thoughts were from everyone.
Did you say this is senior housing, Nick?
Yeah, this will be just for seniors.
Okay.
And that's,
If they're able to get this sale of that property, they would have availability to the clubhouse that's already constructed for the people in Deerfield. So if we can overcome the gas line and we can use this land and have clubhouse, that's amenity that will help them in their application, but they have to have their application in mid-February.
yeah, I think, I
So
believe so.
we need to know what we're willing to do. The other location, as you know, is in Barnstormer West, another organization linked to McPherson Housing Coalition. And there's a lot of in-kind, not a great amount of money for us, but we would have to be willing to do a similar thing if we write a letter of support for them when and if they bring it.
I guess I'd like to see some real numbers as far as what the actual building permits, the tap fees, everything that's involved here. We're going to make a decision. We need to have some dollars in front of us to say we'll give this and that and 50% of that or 90% or whatever we're going to do.
Do you have those numbers?
I've
that
got,
you can give it?
I've got them roughly that Justin prepared. But essentially the tap fees for each individual unit of a duplex are $550 per tap.
So that's 26 times that. So it's $13,000, $14,000.
And then the $2,500 connection fee will cover sewer connections of the newly developed lots that want to connect to the sanitary sewer that were not previously assessed. If sanitary sewer main is extended, other certain lots to obtain sanitary sewer connection, those lots will be assessed $2,500 because they will directly contribute to the new sanitary sewer installation. So The sanitary sewer that is through there, I believe, I think when we looked at it, there is sanitary sewer up this way.
Yes.
And these two don't actually have sanitary sewer to them. So those may be, that 2,500 may apply to those too. I don't know.
Well, I would just like to be safe. That could be 5,000, but I'd like to be safe and just say 10,000 on these others, okay? So.
See, yeah, and I don't know about these either. These may not have sewer to them as well.
24,000, what else you got?
Erosion control permits, they're about $25 per building. Building permit fees, and this is just an estimate based upon the size that we had, was just under $2,700 per building. So that's $2,700 times 13.
So,
And then, like I said, the current plat fees, which would be $100 plus $5 per lot, so $100, 15 times 13. It's not a lot of money when you talk about the plat fees. It's probably more so the building permit fees and the tap fees.
We're
the-
talking more in the $50,000 to $60,000. And then if we take that small piece in $20,000 is quick, so we're looking at $75,000, say, that helps in where you're at.
And of course, then we have to keep in mind that we've got the other facility, the other party interest as well. So what we do with this, obviously, they're not thinking the 13 units, is that correct?
I don't remember where they were sitting last time. We looked a year ago, but I thought it was fairly similar to that. And they were looking at, theirs was family. Theirs are, I believe, last time I heard, theirs were family units.
Mhm.
And they were duplexes, and it was in the same ballpark. You know, obviously, they're talking about all new streets too.
I would say if we were willing to give $75,000 on each of the projects, assuming the second project comes forward, but we have given $100,000 on other projects, so I don't see us going over the 75, but if we had to go to 100, that either one of those could get that high, but we still then have, this is going to be immediately ready for property tax. There's not like
RHID.
RHID, a wait to start to get our money back.
You say it's not?
Yeah, we wouldn't be looking at RHID.
No.
Okay,
We're
all right,
not.
That's what
not-
that's
we're
the
not-
next question.
It's not going to qualify for much of anything else but for this program. So if we put that in, I think we're going to have, start to get a cash flow back from these.
And typically, they all get built at once. It's not like you build one, build
Right,
another.
right.
It's-
They have to build all 13 or they're not going to do the project.
And I'll tell you, low-income housing is a critical thing for us. It's absolutely critical for McPherson.
Yeah, it's one of the things in the housing study that we're short on. So if we got both projects, which you probably can't get, but it may be in 2 years, get both of them. However, we can do this to make them both go through would be a good deal.
And the other thing that I have, and I know it's, I talked a little bit, visited with Nick just a little bit about this, but, I guess I'm concerned with who and how this is going to be managed, knowing that there's a couple of facilities already here in town. I had the opportunity, or took the opportunity, I guess, to drive out to one of them this weekend. And I'm just ashamed that we have things like this in McPherson. I really am. This facility that I drove past, the trash can was dumped over. The people actually backed over the trash and pushed the trash can out in the street with a vehicle and just drove away. I don't know who manages that thing, but if this is not going to be managed any better, then I'm not for it.
I could tell you,
These are experienced people that have done many, many projects in the past, and you can look at their projects. I don't think they're going to be like that.
and there's been some discussion on some partnerships between potential, another individual that owns, runs an apartment complex. If they could get that experience, it would allow them to look at some low-income housing tax credits in the future. So there's been discussions on that. There's also been discussions with another care facility in town that might be a willing partner there as well. Their goal is not to for the long term manage these. Obviously, they've got to be involved as part of the low-income tax credit project and part of the requirements that have to be there. But ultimately, they'd like to have someone local that's a partner.
Well, that's my concern. I mean, if we have somebody local that's gonna manage this thing, that's one thing, but we're gonna have somebody from 700 miles away say, send me the check, PO box, whatever it is. And we just need some local management or somebody that can be contacted. And I just want to make sure that somebody's concerned other than just building it and collecting a monthly payment.
Yeah, I think that this is a reputable, they have many projects that have been well-run, and with a link to a well-run apartment complex and wanting to gain experience in this area, but you can't get approved if you don't have at least 2 years' experience in low-income housing grants. I think that and possibly linked to an elder care facility, that we have good people at every level of this one.
Good.
And, as I mentioned to you earlier today, I think they're more than willing to show you some of their facilities that they've run if we want to make arrangements for you guys to see that.
Okay. Well, what kind of a date are we looking at? Do we know?
Sooner
We're talking
than-
a year from now? We're talking this spring? We're talking-
When it would actually start. So I believe they have to have the applications in by February. And then what happens is they'll do KDHE will look at all the applications, they'll review them. They'll do a site visits on all of them to kind of see where they're at.
Mhm.
And then they'll advance the projects that they want to advance into next. And I think it's like spring before they sit down and start looking at which applications they're actually going to fund. So you're probably looking a year from now. It could be sooner. It could be anywhere from 6 months to a year from now. I think that we'd be looking at actually doing this.
But we have to know what we're willing to do so they can
I
turn the
understand, but I'm-
application in.
Right, and
Yeah.
I'm willing to look at that.
Local neighborhoods have the opportunity to
Oppose it?
The
From
only neighbors on these are low income themselves.
I don't think so.
I do. Put the map back up. Tell me where you don't think so.
I don't think so.
You've got the Deerfield place, which would include you. You can oppose it. But on the other side of the tree line is low income housing. And we've already built 45 units.
there will be an opportunity because the site plan will have to go to the planning commission. That will be an opportunity. Yeah, I believe they're already zoned appropriately to be duplexes already. So I will tell you from a zoning standpoint, it's already zoned appropriately. From a site plan standpoint, there'll be that opportunity as well.
But I would say if you have a concern, you could get with Nick and look at some of the pictures of the types of stuff that's being put up. It's better housing than a lot of those in there right now.
And I know that they've been in discussions with the individual that owns the remaining lots to the south there, and he would be selling them the lots. So he understands that there's value that he wants to have something that still remains and retains the value to the south if he decides to do some single family homes to the south. So I don't know if there's some direction you want as a governing board. Obviously they need to know probably sooner rather than later because they are finishing up this application. I don't know maybe we have some discussion what we're willing to offer. Is it the 75,000 that the mayor brought up? Is it up to 75,000 and waiving some of these fees? What's an amount that would be manageable for the governing body?
Well, I'd like to bring up to 75,000, up to. I don't want to say we automatically do it, up to 75,000, list all those different permits and all that kind of piece and see what their reaction is as an offer to put into the application. And then we may still have to come back and deal with it again, because if they say, no, our experience has been on the number of ones that they've done, that less than 100,000 doesn't do it, then we could put up to $100,000, but I don't want to put that if I don't need it. So
Okay.
I would just like to come back and say, we will offer them up to $75,000 and in kind.
Or
and
waive fees?
waive fees, including inspection. If we can do it in-house. If we can't do it in-house, well, then we can't waive it.
Okay.
Is that? Okay,
Everyone okay if that's what we go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
and pose?
okay. What else do you have?
That would
Can
be
I
it.
just comment?
Yes.
If this happens in 2020, we have not budgeted this.
It's
So
21.
21.
Oh, I thought you said it could be 6 months.
It could be, but if
Yeah,
they're in
she
they're,
used the wrong year. She's
Yeah.
talking about it's not budgeted in 2021. I think a lot of it's in kind, not money, Janetta. And I think we just have to see where we're at, but
I would say that the only potential cash piece is if we have to help contribute to finish that portion of the road, which is the 18,000. So that would be the big, Janetta, to me, that's the big piece that we'd have to make a determination whether we budget for that. And we'll have a better idea, hopefully, by the time we start working on the budgets, whether a project like this has been funded and when that actual roadway piece would have to be done. So,
okay,
okay.
all right. So we can go back. We are no longer in study session.